Hi, my name is Warren and I'm a bit of a guitar geek. I'm just having a look at this thing over here. It's a little bit of a legend. It's a Stranger Cube 40. It's made in Calcutta, India. Sometime, I think, in the 90s. It came over here to New Zealand when my dad had all our stuff shipped in 2003 when they moved here. So it's been lying at his house and I saw it and I decided, okay, it's time we gave this a listen again. So a little bit of a background. In the 90s, this kind of thing was one of the few pieces of gear you could get for not that much money. I think it was around like 4 or 5,000 rupees. So not a lot of money. Well, not exactly cheap at the time as well, but it did sound really good and lots of people ended up using them. It was like if you were starting to play guitar and you needed an amp, it was like one of the things that you could look at. Now it's, I think, modeled on the Roland Cube at the time or something like that. It's pretty clean. It's like a good solid clean sound, which then people would plug in stuff like processors or pedals or whatever. I had a Cube 80 at the time. This is my dad's Cube 40. On mine, I did this kind of a mod where the top part's a preamp and the bottom's a power amp. So I kind of interrupted that connection so you could jack in I think I was using a Sansamp rack at the time, a PSA one. And I put that straight into the power amp. And when you did that, it was like an external preamp into the inbuilt power amp. And it sounded huge. We never really thought that much about it. It just sounded good. So anyway, I've got this mic'd up today with a Shure SM57. And if you just look at the basic sound, it's like this. Cool, so a good solid clean, and I think the volume's just around 2 or so, whatever I got the tones on. The bass around 6, middle around 4, treble around 5. The reverb's off. I'm using the reverb from the Universal Audio card here. And this is the full tone OCD. This is a really good pedal in terms of it just does a lot of things very nicely. So right now I've got the pedal drive around 1 o'clock. The level is at noon and the tone is around 11 o'clock. So, you can actually get a really good sound of just like one drive pedal, maybe a reverb and this amp, So it's not really that important. I mean, it's good to have good gear and stuff like that, but just stuff like this, which does a good solid job and you can find them pretty cheap, we shouldn't really discount it. It's always going to be handy. You never know, because sometimes I've been at jam rooms and stuff where there was just a stranger. So it's like, cool, I'll use that. Not a issue at all. There was this one time I was in a band called Zero and we were playing in Hyderabad along with another band called Pin Drop Violence, or PDV as they were known. And the Black Star Blues drummer Jairo Kavi was playing drums with them at the time. So the PDV guitar players were carrying 2 Stranger Cube 80 amps in road cases. And I asked them, why are you carrying Stranger amps all the way to Hyderabad? They said our manager, who was Visionaire, also the Zero manager, our manager suggested that we carry our own amps because he was sick of us getting different sounds at different gigs. So the thing was like you would land up to a gig and you'd ask for an amp and whatever was there you'd have to make do. So some guitar players did not like being confronted with strange amps. And so Vijay was completely right in telling them, yeah, you just have your own gear, then you can, you don't have to worry about that. So we landed up with a gig and I had asked for a Marshall, JCM something or the other. And there was no sign of it. And I had no option but to use those 2 Strangers, which they had thankfully carried from Bombay. And we got through the gig. It sounded fine. There was no issue with that. I had a drive pedal in front and I probably ended up using the reverb from the amps. And it just worked absolutely fine. There was another time Pentagram was playing at Zenzi in Bandra and my friend Randolph on guitar, he got a massive sound and I went and asked him, how are you getting that sound? And there's a Stranger amp and a Boss Metal Zone pedal, and he had a Schecter guitar or something. He just sounded so great. And it just goes to show, if you know what you're doing, you can get great results from like a very, what you would consider to be an average piece of gear. But I think these things are something to them because they they just have a really solid sound, which doesn't really fall apart. There's no like none of those. And as long as you know how to EQ whatever you're going for, you can actually get great results of it. So I hope this has been a helpful or useful video for you. Thank you. Bye bye.